How you doing, man? I'm Gil Roth, and you're listening to a bonus episode of my Virtual Memories Show podcast. This is a COVID check-in episode where I record with a past guest of the podcast to find out how they're holding up during the pandemic. As far as how I'm doing, I'm in an okay mood. Yesterday was kind of lazy, but not disheartening, you know? Amy and I went on a nice long walk, which helped. It's Monday morning. It is April 6th, 2020. I have a bunch of work to do today for my day job, so there's not really any time to wallow. So let's get to today's guest. James Sturm is joining me this time around. James lives in Heartland, Vermont. He is a cartoonist and the founder and director of the Center for Cartoon Studies in White River Junction, Vermont. James was on the podcast about a year ago to talk about his graphic novel Off Season. And he has a much higher opinion of the significance of this podcast than I do. As far as caveats go, nothing really. James occasionally moved closer or farther from the mic, so his levels can get a little bit loud, but otherwise, all good. Here's me and James. How are you doing, and how is CCS? What impact is pandemic having on both the school and you and your life?
Well, I'll start with myself. In some ways, I'm less socially isolated than I was before this started. My oldest daughter came home from college with a friend of hers, and then my youngest daughter, who's still in high school, is here, and my wife. So we got 5 of us and 2 dogs. So there's never a dull moment, but feel very grateful to have the near and dear near. Mm-hmm. And I've been, I think I'm just trying to get into a rhythm that keeps me sane. Trying to do a digital media fast once a week, like a digital Sabbath from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've done one for like 8 hours or so throughout this whole thing. I've had like one stretch where I was able to do that much, but I found it too easy to fall back in. So
it's hard. Yeah. The first week I tried to do it. My parents are in an apartment in Westchester, and there was some few food security issues that had to be addressed with right away. And that took up a lot of my quote unquote digital Sabbath, going online and seeing if anybody could deliver them food and whatnot.
But that's still a little different than like the fire hose of Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, at least.
Right. Yeah. I'm not even on Twitter or Facebook, but
that's healthy right there.
Yeah, there you go. I do check the New York Times a lot and, other news sources, but at a certain point you can't do anything about a lot of it. And it just kind of makes you feel pretty helpless and shitty. So, mm-hmm. And the cartoon school. Yeah. That's been a roller coaster ride too. We had to get our curriculum online really quickly. And, luckily we were school like 35 students. So I can't even imagine how hard it would be for schools that are, exponentially more than that, 350, 35,000. How do you do it? I don't know.
And what was that process like, coming up with online and, just walk me through, how it went in the initial process or what you learned from that process.
Well, some of our faculty members have already done some online teaching. We only had about 7 weeks left of the semester to go. We were coming back from spring break. So when all this was hitting, we actually had a little time to get things up and running. The cartoonist Alec Longstreth is just amazing in terms of his competency of figuring stuff out, and the staff at CCS as well. So everybody kind of just dove in and, figured out, are we going to Zoom? Are we going to Google Meet? How are we going to make this work online? We have a visiting artist every week. Every spring, we have an industry day where we bring together editors and publishers, somebody from the media, and they have a panel discussion and they do one-on-ones with students. And that was a week ago last Thursday. And we were able to do that online. And it was probably one of the richer discussions we've had at the school. And then this last Thursday, we had a live stream of the appointment of a Vermont cartoonist laureate. We're the only state in the country that does that.
Yeah.
And Rick Veitch, the cartoonist, was going to appear on the State House floor in Montpelier. They were going to read a resolution. He was going to meet the governor. All that couldn't happen, of course, but we were still able to do an event online, and Alison Bechdel and Ed Koren stopped in, which was super fun. And Steve Bissett interviewed Rick as well. So
they go way back, those two. Yeah.
They do, back to the days of the Joe Krubert School, the inaugural class.
Yeah, that's some history.
Have you ever come up for an industry day? You should come up for one.
I never have. I've never made the trip. And Ed Koren has always had the Gil, you have to come up to Vermont sometime. We recorded ones in Columbus at CXC, but he's implored me to make the trip up.
Yeah, let's make that happen.
Mm-hmm. I don't like to think of myself as industry, but I don't want to mislead anybody else into thinking I'm industry by any means.
But I think after talking to so many people in the industry, you probably have a good sense of how this whole thing works.
Yeah, that's been part of it. And, through this experience of reaching back out to everybody from the past and seeing who wants to do this again, because I have this longstanding belief that all of you forget who I am the instant, I leave the room. So it's been nice to see the number of people who, it would be great to get together and virtually, to catch up and see how we're working. So yes, apparently I have built a significant network and background of experience in this stuff. So I accept your invitation in the off chance we're actually able to ever, travel again and meet people in person.
I think that will happen again, Gil.
It's my hope. Yeah. How's Vermont been in general? The numbers aren't huge, but it's a much smaller population than a lot of other states.
Yeah.
How's your area at least?
So far so good. We have a really good hospital here. It's part of the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, which is affiliated with Dartmouth College. And so far, they have not been slammed. I have a neighbor who's a palliative care nurse at another hospital, Manascutney, and she's been going through on some walks with my wife, and she said, they're getting ready for the the wave. It's like the slow motion fist that's going to that we're all waiting for. And they think it's going to peak in this area, probably the end of April, early May. And, everything from, the trucks, refrigerator trucks that could potentially take away corpses to just clearing out this one hospital so they can accommodate all the COVID patients.
Mm-hmm. Any comics or other reading that's prepared you in any sense for what we're going through?
Yeah, one of the things that I started doing when this all started going down, you try to seek out books and people you want to talk to that could maybe offer some perspective or just at the very least find a little comfort in. So I'm starting to reach out to some cartoonists and videotaping these little dispatches where I'm giving me an excuse, A, to talk to these people, and B, to learn some just basic video editing, which I didn't know how to do. So I started doing these little dispatches, and I've done one with Art Spiegelman and one with M.K. Serwick. And in preparation to talking to M.K., I reread her graphic novel, Taking Turns. And it's the story of her first full-time job out of nursing school, which was in an AIDS unit in Chicago during the height of the AIDS pandemic. And MK is one of the leading lights behind the graphic medicine movement. So it was really nice speaking with her. And the book is there's a lot of heart in that book and a lot of earned wisdom. So that was really good. And I'm rereading Eleanor Davis's This Hard Tomorrow in preparation to talking with her this next week.
Have you had any escapist comics or reading otherwise? Things that have nothing to do with this, but are just giving you some sense of comfort food?
Just as this was happening, I was finishing up Updike's Rabbit Redux, and then I started Rabbit is Rich, the second and third Rabbit books. Yeah. So I just finished Rabbit Rabbit is Rich last night, and I'm kind of glad to be done with this. For as amazing as a writer as Updike is, and as vivid as his writing is, and I just enjoy it just so much from a paragraph to paragraph. That Harry Angstrom character is a little hard to spend that much time with. So I think the third one is Rabbit at Rest. So maybe I'll wait till after the pandemic to read that. And speaking of rabbits, I'm doing the graphic novel adaptation of Watership Down with another cartoonist or illustrator who's now becoming a cartoonist, Joe Sutphin. And so I've been breaking that down and making it into comic form. Mm-hmm. And so I'm spending a lot of time with that book, and I'm really finding a lot of comfort with that too.
Have you been, has something like that helped you focus in a way that not having an assignment might lead to drift? I guess I'm asking, has work helped you kind of not get overwhelmed by the mental aspects of this whole situation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what do they say? Idle hands are the devil's playthings. So I'm also editing a comic about mental health with this cartoonist Carabine, and a graphic novel that Whit Taylor wrote about Harriet Tubman. And so those projects are ongoing as well. And it is really good just to have work to do and just focus on kind of craft and all these projects. I usually pick projects because I feel they're important. And, now in the midst of these blurry days, they seem like some kind of beacon of light. Like, yeah, this stuff really is important. The themes, what they're about. And it makes me that much more focused. And it just feels, especially like helping run the school, it's, you're just so concerned about all the students and the faculty and staff, and trying to keep everybody connected and creative. That it does kind of get you out of your own little pity party. I've been pretty good about going there because, that so many people are just have it way, way worse,
Yeah, that's one thing it's been sort of universal with these sessions that I've done. Everybody has I could self-pity, but it's not like I'm in a different situation than the rest of the world. We're all caught up in this, in the same way. We just have different, conditions going into it. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. Are there timelines or issues related to a fall semester with CCS? Anything you're planning, or is it still kind of early to figure out what next fall is going to look like?
I mean, it's. I think we're just taking it week by week at this point. Where we had a whole slew of summer classes and workshops that we just decided to go online for. But what's kind of also interesting is that on one hand it's like, okay, this is going to hurt CCS's bottom line. It's a lot of labor and work to move everything online. It's not the exact same experience, but on the other hand, I feel we're building a certain type of infrastructure for the school that we going forward. I mean, we've got the whole school up online. We'll get these summer classes online and do them really well, I have no doubt. So, going forward, when this thing ends, we'll be in really great position to start offering low residency options in online learning, which we really haven't done before in any meaningful way. So there's that.
I feel the same way with the show. I mean, I know that what I'm doing right now is nowhere near as important, and it's not part of my livelihood, but I'm coming out with this sense of, after this, yes, I'd still love to record in person for the most part, but now I know I can do remotes relatively well. If there's somebody who I'm never going to get a chance to sit down at a table with, we could still have this sort of opportunity and still share that with an audience. But yes, that's nowhere near the same as CCS has found another way to keep its mission alive.
Yeah. And Gil, I think what you're doing is important. I was thinking, I
like to denigrate everything I do, so I self-deprecate the entire shebang. But yeah, thank you.
I was thinking a couple of days ago how much I was missing Tom Spurgeon during this, because he would just have a website where he would have every online resource. He'd have everybody that was doing kind of drawing,
the Patreons and everything. I'm with you. It's the one episode I have in the can that I've I just haven't been able to go to is the New York City memorial we held for Tom in January. I've got about 2.5 hours of everybody's tributes to him. And I just have to sit down and process the audio and edit and clear out the dead spots and all that. And I'm just, it was tough enough doing the Columbus one that we did in December because it meant a certain finality. And this one, given that there's not going to be another Tom event after this and what we're all going through, yeah, I'm holding off on putting that together. Maybe that'll be next weekend. I'll take off from these daily episodes and sit down and do that. But yeah, thinking about Tom and how he would have helped us, how he would have brought people together when we're all separated like this. Yeah, it sort of makes me wonder, and I don't know how much you've been thinking about that, the lack of the festivals being canceled and what that means to cartoonists in general. The fact that there's no springs, there's no TCAF, potentially no SPX and everything else this fall. Have your either students or younger cartoonists been talking about what this is going to mean?
I haven't even started thinking about that at all, to be honest with you. I've just been so focused on the work, the immediate work. But sure. I would imagine that, those festivals, if not economically, at least like that kind of shot in the arm to kind of get inspired. And, sometimes that's the only time you physically see some other cartoonist that you feel really connected to. Yeah. That's got to be a blow, of course. And then for some people it is,
it's a financial hit too.
Yeah, a financial hit. I know we're trying to figure out like commencement for the school. Like it was supposed to be May 2nd. And one of our alumni, Sasha Valor, was going to give the commencement speech. And, now what? Do we do it online? Do we just postpone it? If you postpone it, like to when? Because who knows when the coast will be clear. So, we're trying to make these decisions, in lockstep with our students and getting their input. And we just sent out a survey to see when all that's going to happen. But, it's just that horrible sense of loss for everybody is just, it really, really sucks. But, you just got to believe that something else is going to come out of this and we'll all be changed and hopefully for the better for the ones that do get out.
Now, do you have any personal, this would be a sign of normalcy thing, or is it simply just seeing a classroom full of students again?
That's a good question. What would be a new normal, right? Boy,
it's
just
being able to question for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think just that physically just being able to like hold hands with somebody or like give somebody a hug goodbye or just not kind of scoot to the far end of a sidewalk or a trail if somebody's passing you by. That will be a good start. Maybe, not seeing the masks in the co-ops and supermarkets. It's all those little, just the little weird things, right? Like that are becoming just habit forming, or just becoming more, normal seeming. Right. Maybe once that goes away, things will.
Yeah, that was Peter Cooper's thing of coming back from Oaxaca to New York City so they could make sure they're, for a number of reasons, which we talked about last week on one of these episodes, but also because he and his wife, their daughter, lives in New York, and they get reunited with the daughter, but they have to keep 6 to 8 feet away from her. So he's got this picture of her standing like in the middle of a crosswalk while he's on the corner because that's as close as they can get for a couple of weeks. And it's just, it's amazing to imagine that, we could flip a switch and make that, reality for this environment. As somebody who has no family and basically hides away from human contact anyway, it didn't freak me out too much. But yes, for other people, this is really disturbing. So,
yeah.
So besides Rabbit, what are you looking forward to either reading or reading in terms of prose or comics going forward? Or at least to get through?
Yeah, I brought home from my studio a collection of Joseph Roth letters. And I was going to start, I've been kind of off and on with them over the years, but I really like his writing, and he was somebody who seemed almost prophetic and very wise, and always saw the writing on the wall before other people did. So I'll probably get into that at some point. Like I said, I just finished that Rabbit book, and I actually in the middle of those Rabbit books, I read Year of Wonders by Geraldine Brooks, I believe her name is. She was a journalist and wrote a novel about the plague year of 1666 in this little village that decided to close its borders so they didn't spread the plague. And it was actually an interesting read because, like I said, the Rabbit main character is a hard dude to spend too much time with. And here is the novel by this plucky, strong female protagonist who is transformed by the horror of the plague in a good way. And there's a redemption, their story arc too. And of course, you don't really find that so much in the Updike work. But I don't know what should I read? I don't know. I'm going to need a novel. I'm going to need something.
Trust me, I've been paralyzed. I've been talking about it for the last couple of days. It took me a month to finish the last book that I had started because I've had so much difficulty focusing. That said, I started another one yesterday and I'm about to finish it this evening. A new novel by Matt Ruff called 88 Names. That's science fiction about 30, 40 years in the future, about virtual reality, gaming, and a weird plot that a Sherpa gets involved in. And it just is pure story, has nothing to do with what we're going through now, but you'll just be swept up and go zooming through this for, a couple of hours at least. And there are times I now am firmly on board with, you just need something that isn't going to make you think about the nature of America, its history, and everything else, which is what the previous book I was working my way through did. So yeah, trying to find things that are, I guess, I don't want to say escapist, but well-wrought, but are primarily story as opposed to other people dealing with pandemics and everything else.
Yeah.
The big thing to me about the whole pandemic, or the aspect of this that's so different than every other zombie plague, contagion, apocalypse, whatever, is the banality and the monotony of it, where it's just, we're all sitting at home, just trying not to make contact with people. And that's a lot different than anything heroic, basically. So,
right.
I still have to work my way through the reprints of the Legion of Superheroes Great Darkness saga, which I picked up a couple of months ago because I hadn't read them since I was like 12 or 13 and thought, I bet those comics are actually pretty entertaining. So
were those the ones that Paul Levitz wrote and Rick Griffin Jr.
with
or whatever? Rick Griffith or something?
Keith Giffen.
Keith Giffen, okay.
Yeah, and Larry Malstadt, because I always remember who the inker is for some goddamn reason. But yeah, so I've got those to a little hardcover of that sitting here. I'm like, I should sit down and read those. I opened it up and realized how wordy all those comics were. Which
they sure were, weren't they?
Not as bad as Chris Claremont, but still up there.
I think those were coming out maybe as I was moving away from that, reading those type of comics, like whether there's like 80s, early 80s or something like that.
Yeah, maybe like 83, 84. So I was like 12 or 13 and you're just a little bit older than that.
Yeah, I was off, I think fall of 83, I was off to college and I think I left Legion of Superheroes behind.
Yes, I was about 5 or 6 years younger, and that was, kind of in my wheelhouse. But that, the X-Men, and everything else. Now, let me ask you, are you more in touch with old friends through this process? Have you been reaching out to people or been hearing from people that you hadn't heard from in a whole long time to make sure things are going okay?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I reached out to some cartoonists just to do my little video stuff, but for the most part, there's a lot of, I have a lot of friends who are cartoonists, obviously. And, I've been doing some check-ins and people contacting and it's just, it is like you were saying before, there's just something about,
we're all in this.
Yeah, we're all in this. And Casimir Lee, who's drawing, the Harriet Tubman book, 10 pages roughed out every week. And we go over the pages and we talk. And there's just something like, wow, like he's in an apartment in New York. And, just there's something heroic about just kind of getting this work done every week. And it seems like they are committed to doing it. And of course, like if anybody can't do it at this point. I mean, deadlines be damned, you got to take care of yourself. But I'm just amazed that, like people are able to focus and get the work done.
I hear you.
And it's been nice, just like connecting through the work. But yeah, a lot of old friends and just checking in and all that. I had parents who were in a little apartment in Westchester, as I mentioned.
But that's better than Rockland County, where they were. Apparently, Rockland County is now 1 in 88 residents is positive. Admittedly,
all Hasidic Jews.
They wouldn't be your family, but it spreads out from there.
Yeah.
But a Pal of mine in Piermont, I was talking to yesterday, said, "Yeah, we're up to 1 in 88." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's concentrated in Muncie and Spring Valley and areas like that." But still, things aren't contained. That's the whole point of this stuff.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, junior high, there was a flea market in Suffern. Oh, and there was a guy who M&M Comics, I think it was.
M&M was in Nyack. The store was in Nyack.
The store was in
X-Men
Nyack.
number 128. Sorry. Oh yeah, but
before,
the flea market, I remember it was behind a little strip mall on Route 59. I remember where it was exactly.
Yeah, and before he went to Nyack, he sold out of his garage too, or his home.
Ah, no shit.
Yeah. And but no, he wasn't in that Suffern flea market, but it was all the way up. And I remember before I had a car, I would take the Rockland County, transit buses to get all the way up there, and I'd be waiting for the buses, in Nanuet to go further up and to Suffern. And I remember always, coming across the Hasidic Jews waiting, and for a little while I had like a little Jewish star necklace, and if any of them saw that dangling, they would just like. I got a big sneer, like, how dare you call yourself a Jew? Because
they're the real ones who are now dealing with the fallout of that. But,
yeah,
or at least the fallout of not respecting civic authority and all. But that's a whole other story we could go into. The real last question I have for you, though, are you binging anything on Netflix or other sorts of TV?
I watch Tiger King like everybody else in this country. It's funny, that happens to be both escapist, but it also is about America and our national identity and character as well. So I just finished that this weekend. And that was, that went down pretty easy. I started the HBO Plot Against America. And boy, if you would have told me like a couple years ago that Philip Roth and the people who made The Wire were going to, team up to make something, I'd be, how could that go wrong? And I've only watched an episode and a half, so I shouldn't say it's gone wrong, but it feels a little almost like preserved in amber. It doesn't have that kind of the crackle of that Roth prose, and it doesn't quite have that I don't know, that amazing structure that like The Wire had, for instance.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it another episode or two, but that's been the other thing that I started. But other than that,
I've DVR'd all those, but I haven't started yet. I kind of figure I'll get to Roth and David Simon together. I'll be in a better mood for it at some point, I think.
Before all this started, I watched the Watchmen on TV, the adaptation, and I admired the Watchmen. I never loved it. I could see how it was important for comics, and there was
again. I was 15. You were 20, so
I
different thing at that age. So.
I didn't read it till I was in my 40s, I don't think, or 30s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I came to it later because it was such a touchstone, and I'm an educator, and students were into it. It's like I should at least know what the damn thing is, and I read it, and like I said, I admired it, but I didn't love it, and put it down. And then I started watching the series, and I was just so blown away by it. And then I went back and read the graphic novel, and somehow I enjoyed it more than ever because it really did inform the HBO series. And everything that the HBO series does, it's kind of built around what Moore created there in Gibbons. And I thought it was really, really well done.
I'll have to give it a look. I have this pathological avoidance of superhero stuff, although Amy and I watched Thor Ragnarok because it was a Taika Waititi movie, and it had a sense of humor. So that was
wait, what's a Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi is the Maori Jewish writer director of Jojo Rabbit and What We Do in the Shadows. What We Do in the Shadows is the greatest TV series that came out last year. Basically, The Office except with vampires. Old world vampires living in Staten Island. That's all you need to know. Just It's on FX, on Hulu. Just watch an episode. You'll get exactly what it is and why it's hysterical. But he's this New Zealand writer director and an actor. But he did that Thor science fiction-y one, and it's the only Marvel flick I've seen in about 8 years now. So
wow. Well, you've managed to avoid. I don't know. They're hard to avoid, aren't they? I feel like every
amazing.
Time I fly, they're just like on like 4 different screens. I look to my left and right, and the row ahead of me. It's like there.
I noticed everybody's got Avengers flying around everywhere, and I've managed to stay under the radar of all that stuff. But cool. So that's you're getting by with work, with comics, with reading, and with the occasional Netflix binge. So
and family for sure. My daughters, my wife and daughters, they love to cook and bake, and I've been eating better than I have before all this started. And the real winner of the pandemic has to be my dogs, who go on long walks every single day in the Vermont woods and trails. So they're getting a good workout. So that's also good for my own mental health as well.
Yeah, we found that with our dog is the laziest greyhound in the world, but we drag him out periodically, and then Amy and I take long walks afterwards. So that's been of good benefit. So
it sounds like you should copyright that phrase, the laziest greyhound in the world.
Yeah, we should make at least a tagline for he has his own Instagram feed, of course, because he's a very photogenic greyhound. But yeah, we'll make that his tagline, definitely. So I look forward to your invitation. I'll come up whenever we're safe and sound again.
Sounds good, Gil.
It'll be good to see you, James.
All righty. Take care.
Thanks. Good talking to you. And that was James Sturm. Go check out his graphic novels like Off Season, Market Day, and his collection of 3 books, America, God, Gold, and Golems, as well as the Adventures in Cartooning anthologies he does through the Center for Cartoon Studies. James is the director of CCS, and you can learn more about the whole institution at cartoonstudies.org, which is spelled exactly as it sounds. There'll be a link to that in the show notes for the episode. I'm really glad they're able to make a transition to online learning, and I hope it does open up new doors for them going forward. Also, as James mentioned, he is not active on social media. He does occasionally post on Instagram as James_Sturmish, which is JAMES_STURMISH, but not really super active there either. And we'll be back tomorrow with another COVID check-in. If you want to send me a little update to read on the air or have something you want to share with the listeners, let me know. We'll set something up. I'm at Groth18, that's GROTH18 @gmail.com. You can find the contact info at our websites, vmspod.com or chimeraobscura.com/VM. In case you're interested in what I'm using for this remote recording setup instead of the in-person sessions I used to do, it is Zencastr that allows me to record these remotes. It's spelled ZENCASTR, so no final E. Zencastr costs $20 a month, but my Patreon supporters more than cover it, especially because I no longer have to spend money on tolls, parking, gas, coffee, subway rides, etc. So if you can spare any money, don't give it to me. Go find the Patreons, GoFundMes, Kickstarters, Indiegogos, tip jars, whatever, for the artists, writers, creators, and just people in general who you like and support. And if you are in need, email me or send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, and I will include you on the website that I have of people in need. Anyway, I am Gil Roth. This is Monday, April 6, 2020. This is a bonus episode of my Virtual Memories show. Thanks so much for listening. Keep the conversation going, stay safe, and and wash your damn hands.